在这里我想再跟大家说一下，因为由于场地的原因，我们不能把声音放得更大。当然，如果你听得不清楚的时候，无论你想听英语或者中文的，你都可以戴上你的耳机。然后 Channel 1是中文 ，Channel 2是英文。然后接下来我们想邀请一个重量级的嘉宾，他是来自于 HTC 中国区的总经理汪崇清先生，请汪总。
So I'm going to use English to speak with you guys today. I guess there's some Western guests here, so we'll try to respect them. Please use your headsets if you need to listen to Chinese. What I'm going to talk to you guys today is about 5G and VR and how this new technology and these two technologies together is going to change our lives and change our reality. If you look at the picture above, I think it's actually a very good symbol of what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years. We used to travel on the ground using a very traditional, slower train. But very soon, we're going to go into a high-speed train format with the 5G networks that are out there, and it's going to bring a new life to us. HTC is in this telecom space for the last 20 years, and over the last 5 years or so, we've started also to come into the VR, AR space. So we're actually probably the best company in the world to combine these two technologies into one solution. And we're really focused not on just making money or trying to make a profit or just making products. We actually want to change the world. Our company mission is to unleash human imagination from the limitations of reality. It just means that using new technology to make our dreams come true, make your dreams come true. And we've created multiple divisions within our company, our hardware division, HTC Vive, our software and platform division, Viveport, our studios division to make the content on our devices, and then our ViveX business or accelerator, which invests in the best and thriving companies in the VR, AR, and AI space. Over the last 40 years, this world has gone through multiple revolutions of technology, different trends that's really changed the way we work, changed the way we learn, and changed the way we live. And going from the PC industry and the PC revolution of the 80s to the web revolution of the 90s, where information became available, to the 2000s, when we started putting a supercomputer into our pockets and allowing us to have access to information everywhere. Over the last 3-4 years, what's starting to happen is this VR revolution, this immersive computing revolution, where we're starting to bring in new worlds into our lives, where we can travel to any place, anywhere, at any time, and have experiences that nobody could even imagine before. Now, if you look around the last week, what you see is this word everywhere, 5G. 5G is everything that everybody talks about today. But what's good with 5G? What can it do for you, right? And I think what you'll find and what a lot of experts in the industry agree on is that 5G allows for better immersive media, immersive experiences. So 5G plus VR is actually the next trend. 5G, and when I say VR, I mean VR plus AR, because actually VR and AR are really the same technology. It's just right now they're being displayed in two different type of formats. One is more smaller glasses, one is more boxier VR headsets. But in the near term, the next few years, these two technologies are going to combine. Just yesterday, HTC was announced to be selected as the primary technology provider to China Mobile for their 5G cloud VR solution. And here's a picture of a live demo where we're using the real 5G networks that are in the air today, streaming from a cloud solution over to the headset that was there. So we're using content that comes from our Viveport stores, so thousands of pieces of content, going through the middle layer and the servers and the render farms and the GPU and CPU farms over a 5G network to our 5G hub. Our 5G hub then goes over and sends that information to this headset, right? That entire end-to-end network, HTC is the only company in the world that has actually deployed it in a real network and it's working. here's this service 2.5, 3 months ago at MWC Barcelona. This was the first example of a live 5G deployment of a fully interactive VR experience. So a server, about probably 50 meters away was going through a simulated VR 5G network to that hub on top. That was a 5G hub to this headset. What's happening this week is actually live network where a server is not on site. The server is actually miles and miles away and it's still working. So what this allows for is that now people can just click on a piece of software and it runs. It doesn't have to download anymore, and you don't have to pay per use. You actually just instantly have access to any content you want. What we just saw was that at the current VR devices, they're still a little bit boxy, a little bit big, but this is what it's going to look like in a few years. You're going to have devices that look just like glasses today, maybe like sunglasses, but it will have the capability to make you smarter. It will have the capability to transport you to any location you want in the world, and then also to be able to sense your hands, to be able to sense your eyes, to be able to give you that experience of fully being somewhere. And VR, AR, 5G, and plus AI are together going to create and make this possible. And these are the technologies that we've been investing in for the last 20 years to make happen what's available today. Today, these are the 6 devices that we have that are available in the market. And whether you're talking about consumer-grade product, standalone products that does not need a computer, or professional-level VR devices, Vive actually has the leading product across the market globally. We own about 37% market share in the global market and 40% market share in the China market. So no matter what market you're talking about, we are the clear market leader. About 3-4 years ago, when VR devices came out to the consumers, this is what people had to deal with. They had to work with wires, with stands, with tracking systems, with high-end computers, and you pretty much needed to be a technology enthusiast to set one up. The beginning of this year, we announced this product, the Vive Focus Plus. With that product, you essentially can do everything that these products can do without all the complexity. Not only that, it used to take an hour to 2 hours to set up, and every time you turn it on, it would take 5 to 10 minutes before you could start using the product. And it would cost somewhere between 10 to 50,000 RMB to get this solution, no matter you're talking about our product or some of the other competitor products. What's happening now is that for under 6,000 RMB, in 5 to 10 minutes you can set it up, and in 5 to 10 seconds you put this on and you're transported to a new world. The good news is we just actually came out with some data that you guys might be interested in. What we're finding is that there's a very clear trend. More and more people are moving from the traditional VR devices over to AIO. The AIO is all-in-one devices. That's the standalone that I just showed you. This is the device that most people are going to use to experience VR, not necessarily the high-end computer-linked, and definitely not the ones where you stick a phone into a box. There are people talking about AR today, but it's still a relatively small portion of people that are interested in buying this kind of technology. So one of the words that you'll probably hear a lot is DOF, D-O-F, degree of freedom. What exactly is degree of freedom? Okay, so a degree of freedom is the ability to move in one particular dimension. So if you're doing a display with 1 degree of freedom, you essentially have a meter, right? It tells you something. A 2 degree of freedom, you can go up and down and side to side. So you have a screen, a 2D screen. A 3 degree of freedom experience is something like this. It's like a dome screen where you're inside. I was just at this Montreal dome made by the founder of Cirque du Soleil. They actually created this experience that surrounds you and you lie down to watch it. And it was actually created in a VR device to simulate it. 4 degree of freedom is kind of you're looking out this window, but you're on a train, and the train is going in one direction. So you have 4 degrees of freedom. 5 degrees of freedom is looking out the window of a car that can go left or right or anywhere on a plane because you're on the surface. And a 6 degrees of freedom is a helicopter where you're essentially, you can see everything around you and you can go up and down, you can go side to side or forward and back. This is, so when people say 6 degrees of freedom, this is what they mean, the ability to move anywhere in an open space. Another way to think about this is the world that we live in is 6 degrees of freedom. I can move up and down, left and right. I can move, any direction, and I can bend down, right? So every one of us actually has an ability to experience 6 degrees of freedom. We need that exact same experience in VR if we're going to be able to let people be natural, let people feel comfortable. It has to be a 6 degrees of freedom experience. In fact, we had asked recently over 4,000 consumers, and we said, what kind of a device are you looking for? So not only are users looking for 6 degrees of freedom on their head so they can move around, they also want 6 degrees of freedom on their hands so they can see their hands and be able to manipulate information and things within a virtual environment. There's definitely devices that are cheaper that allows you to just sit there and watch, and you can watch a movie in 3 degrees of freedom. Or our first generation focused devices allow you to move your hand in a rotated version, but your head can move around. But really what everybody wants is this thing that's on the left, the ability to have both your hands and your head be able to move in open space. So I have actually some good news for you guys today. Today we're actually announcing a new technology that hasn't ever been available. It's the ability to walk into a movie. Okay? So one of the biggest application and usage models for VR devices so far has to watch 360 movies or to watch 2D movies. But I think we all dreamed about this kind of an environment where before you're in a fixed environment, you're watching this 2D or 3D movie, but we can actually turn any 360-degree movie into a 6-off movie, a 6 degrees of freedom movie, where you can walk into the movie, you can get closer to the characters, you can get further away without changing an existing video. We call it 6-off light. So you have about a 1 meter direction in any one direction within a movie that has already been filmed. We don't have to modify the movie at all, and it will run. And this technology is in our ViPort video player, and it's available for download today. So if you go to our ViPort, if you have one of our devices, go to our ViPort store. You can actually download it today and run it on our ViFocus or Focus Plus. So you can actually go into your favorite movie and interact with your favorite characters. Very soon, when we start having live streaming in 360, you'll be able to get closer to your streaming idols and your rock stars, right? You'll be able to get closer to your favorite teams and your athletes when you're watching them. In fact, you'll also be able to share your moments with your family, whether it's somebody's birthday or graduation or wedding. If you can film it in 360, your family and friends can put on a headset and feel like they're actually there, without you using any unique and special technologies. In fact, this technology right now is already also being used to change the way we work. This is actually one of our weekly meetings that we have in VR. And this is my virtual character, and we have people from different offices put on their headset, and we talk to each other. So it avoids us having to fly everywhere. We can actually use VR to make ourselves more effective. Here's a conference that we did about a year ago where we had 300 people putting on headsets and be able to see in a virtual space that matched their physical space. Hopefully in a few years, all of you guys can attend MWC without having to fly or get on a plane or a train or a car to get here. It can also be used to help you design and work better. We recently worked with Logitech to create the world's first VR-ready pen. You can take this pen, be able to draw something in the air or draw something on a surface, and be able to then turn it into something that's 3D. We're allowing people to use a technology or a tool that they've grown up their entire life using, right? And allows them to be a lot more effective in doing the work that they already know how to do, and particularly in the design and the engineering field. It's also being used to train people, right? Whether you're talking about the military to train pilots, or with Raymond Forklift, where they're training these people to do warehousing forklift devices, or Toyota's using it to train their salespeople, or Rolls-Royce is using it to train their engineers. It can also be used to help sell, right? A lot of products, until you actually try it out, you don't know if it fits you. You don't know if it's right for you. Decathlon has actually worked to create a virtual tent experience. So you can actually go and select whatever tent you want and feel like what it's like in there when it's raining. Feel like what it's like in there when you're standing up. Can you actually feel comfortable buying a tent? And instead of setting up 50 different tents, they just put on a VR headset. And they've done this at 100 different stores around Canada. It can be also used to do remote control. So for places that that are dangerous to go to, people actually are using VR devices to manage and control robots. So this morning I was in another session and we were talking about, will robots replace humans? So maybe this is one of the things that we can do to make people's jobs safer while still maintaining their job. I don't know how many of you guys recognize this gentleman. This is Jeff Bezos. He's a CEO for Amazon, and he's using a VR-enhanced glove that has haptic feedback. And it's using the Vive tracker system to be able to track his movement. So when he actually touches something, he can feel it on his hand. So it brings an added level of realism. They're trying to use this type of technology to send spaceships to Mars and be able to control robots that will build the houses on Mars before the people get there. It can also be used to teach children, right? We actually, about a month ago, we used a 5G plus a VR system to allow a single teacher in Beijing to go teach students in Guizhou, one of the poorest sections of China. So you're taking some of the best teachers in the country to be able to teach some of the poorest and less accessible students in the world and give them a higher level of education. And that was also made possible because of using 5G technology and VR. And the two classes actually worked together to solve problems. So it actually brought the distance between these school classes together, even though they're physically hundreds of miles apart. And we just released this new data that we worked with Beijing Normal University on, where what it's showing is that creativity can be greatly enhanced using VR. A lot of people are talking about, will AI, make us be irrelevant? If all these machines are getting smarter, how are we going to compete with machines? How are we going to compete with artificial agents? Well, the good news is AI can't really be as creative as humans today. So if we can use VR to educate our children and educate our adults, we can become more creative so that we can actually do the jobs that artificial intelligence cannot do. It can also be used to heal. There's people right now using VR, 5G and VR to do remote surgery. There are people using VR to train nurses. There are people using VR to help with mental illness, post-traumatic stress, to be able to deal with creating higher levels of empathy between people. All of that can actually happen because of these technologies coming together. Here's something a little bit funner and more exciting. I don't know how many of you guys play Fortnite. So it's one of the most popular games in the world right now. And about a month ago, 10 million people got into Fortnite and joined into virtual concerts. 100,000 virtual concerts, each with 100 people, all experiencing what it's like to go to an EDM concert with this DJ Marshmello. He's one of the top 10 DJs in the world. This is the kind of experience we will all be able to go to. Be able to go into, put on a headset and virtually go to a concert with your friends and experience, on stage, be on stage with your favorite DJ or your favorite band. Or watching sports. In fact, F1 is here. I see they have a booth here. And we've been working with McLaren on working on what's going to be the next generation of F1 racing. These are the kind of suits that people are going to wear, and it's going to have AR-enhanced helmets. There's going to be 5G connected to the cars, where all the information about the cars is going to be streamed directly to all the viewers. There's going to be drones videotaping all of this information, streaming it back to the network through their 5G networks. All of this is going to enhance the people's way of experiencing. Anybody can actually not just watch the car, but they can be the driver. They can put on a headset and feel like what it's like to be the driver of any car that they want and see that in real time. If you're a tennis fan, very soon Wimbledon's going to come up. And if you look here, we actually have Murray, who is one of the top British tennis players. And Andy Murray is actually using our headset, the Vive Focus, the Vive Pro, and with a tracker where you can actually play. So they've scanned him, and now you can go into VR and play tennis against him and see what it's like to be a professional tennis player. See how quick it is, or how fast, or how hard it is to return one of his serves when you go to Wimbledon. It's something that really we have very little chance to get access to, but now anybody with a headset can put this on, and you could be on center court at Wimbledon. So 2022 is the Winter Olympics in China. And President Xi Jinping has said, by 2022, the goal for the country is to have 300 million people participate in winter sports, right? Because I think that's something that is very important for the president and very important for the country, that the Winter Olympics and the country comes together. Now, we're working right now with the Olympic Committee to do advertising trials. And we did trials on 2D where people are watching winter sports, or in 360 video where they're watching it but they can rotate and watch around, or they can do 6DoF advertising where they can actually participate and feel what it's like to ski. And I want you to understand, or we wanted to share with you the results of that. This is the first time we're sharing this data anywhere. And what we found is that by having somebody actively doing the sport, their interest level in winter sports went up 7x. Their interest to try out, to actually go and ski, went up 2.3x, right? And it's not just them telling us. This is where they're answering surveys. We actually also went back and tested their EEGs, their brain waves. And their interest level signal on their brain waves went up 1.7x. So it's really, really amazing what this technology can do in terms of helping change people's minds. So let me end with a few key points. First, what are the key trends that are coming up? All major carriers are working on 5G cloud solutions. Full 6DoF VR is something that will allow us to stream from 5G, but it also, in the meantime, will allow us to stream from PC VR solutions. 5G cloud VR will enable lighter and smaller headsets like the picture that we showed earlier in the presentation. 360 and live streaming video is going to be one of the important use cases for 5G. So B2B use cases actually will probably be the first usage, more popular usage earlier than the B2C cases. Even though what you'll see a lot of demos on are B2C use cases, B2B is actually where it's probably going to hit people first. But there's still a lot of challenges. This is not a done deal, right? To make this happen, we actually need broad coverage. And to build out broad coverage, it's going to take 2 to 3 years, right? It's not going to happen right away. I think yesterday, the president of China Mobile said they're going to build out 50,000 towers for 5G this year. Now, there's 2.5 million towers for 4G in China. So you can see there's still quite a big gap between the coverage we need and the coverage that we will have in the near term. There's still a lot of work to make the latency acceptable for users so they feel good in VR. To have full deployment is actually very expensive. We have to buy a lot of servers to make it happen. So how do we make that ROI worth it for the carriers? The demand and the ability to pay for the consumers is still not validated. I think right now, people are charging 50, 60 RMB or 100 RMB a month for a package. How much more are they willing to pay for 5G services? Nobody really knows yet. How do we make money? How do these users, how do these carriers get a return? And there's no standards, so every carrier is doing different standards, every carrier is using different vendors, and the devices may not be compatible. Also, is there enough content to make this interesting enough for people to use it all the time? To not just use it once or twice, but to come back and keep using it. There's still a lot of questions. So one good news is, about 2 months ago, we announced that we are allowing our subscription program for Viport. Viport already has over 2,000 pieces of VR, high-quality VR content. And we have now made a lot of that content available for a single price. It's like a Netflix program for VR. So I wanted to share some good news for you, is that after about 2 months of service, what we found is that when people have a subscription service for VR, their interest in downloading, their actually activity in downloading goes up 5x. Their usage level goes up 1.9x. So they're actually using a lot more than they used to, at least twice as much. And 61% of people are actually making money. 61% of developers are making money that didn't get to make money from these content before. So one last thing, if you're a startup and you want to join our program, you want to join ViveX, our application now is open for the 5th batch. Here's a URL. Please take a picture if you want. And my final video to kind of end it off. This is what we see the vision of where VR is going to go in the next 2 to 3 years. Right? It's not going to be this year, but it will happen very, very soon. You know, a child comes back from school, he puts his phone down, connects to the 5G network, connects his network to his headset, and then he can turn his room into a virtual playground or virtual office or virtual classroom, right? He can turn any wall into a screen, and he can interact in a way that is as natural as he is in the real world. And that's not something that's actually far away. It's actually something that's already available, can be done today, but it will be even easier once 5G becomes available. And you know, if his parents comes in and talks to him, they can still interact with him in the real world and tells him that, hey, he needs to go on a field trip with his classroom. He can turn around and all of a sudden his room now turns into his classroom and his teacher is asking him to go to a field trip. And then he can learn about ancient Egypt. Right? So in the interest of time, I'm going to finish with one last reminder for everybody. This reality is going to come very, very soon. What are you going to do to prepare for this future? What are you going to do for your company to prepare for this future? So thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of MWC. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Alvin.